Hi, I'm Johnny from ultimatepapier-mâché.com, and what I've got here is a sculpture that I'm making as an experiment to see if we can waterproof papier-mâché clay. It's the Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz books. It's pretty rough, I'm going to admit that right up front. I have not been able to talk myself into spending a whole lot of time on it because it is an experiment and we don't actually know if it's going to work or not. I showed you in the previous videos how I made the armature for this fellow. Putting the papier-mâché clay on here was pretty much just did it the same way I did for the dragon and for hundreds of other sculptures that I've shown you out on my blog and on YouTube. Basically, I had to lay him down on the table and do him one side at a time, and I'm really kicking myself for not using James Porter's idea of using a threaded pipe in his leg, because if I had done that, I would have been able to attach a fitting to a piece of plywood or something and just screw him onto my little short table, and I would have been able to work on him all the way around instead of just doing one side at a time. It would have been really helpful. So since I was too lazy to run to the store and spend $2 for the pipe, I ended up spending a whole lot of time that I shouldn't have had to. Right now I have him sitting in a bucket of wet sand. I have that curtain rod down there and stuck in the sand. I didn't have him this way when I was doing most of the work because you can see it's pretty wiggly, and I was afraid it would end up on the floor. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some facial features. Again, I'm not going to try too hard to get them right. And this fellow will then dry again. He's pretty much dry all the way through, but I'm still going to leave him, after putting just a little bit of papier-mâché clay on the face, I'm going to leave him for another 2 or 3 days just to make absolutely sure that he's dry all the way through. I've already tried the waterproofing stuff, the Trojan masonry and concrete sealer on my new concrete countertop. It seems to be working really good. Hopefully it will work just as well on this fellow, but we don't know yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this guy up, and I'll show you how it looks when it's done. Okay, I've just about got his face done. I'm just making buttons for his eyes. Put some holes in there so that the thread can go in. Again, very kind of crude, but I'm trying really hard to come as close to the original drawing as I can without going to too much work. Now, if you happen to be wondering why it's gray instead of the usual white of papier-mâché clay, it's because I added just a little bit of concrete color. You just get that in the hardware store. You could put acrylic paint in the clay to color it. The concrete color is kind of a lot less expensive, so that's what I used. Now the other thing I did was use a drill with a paint mixer attachment, just because I was making pretty big batches and I didn't want to wear out the motor on my electric mixer that I usually use. Now the one thing that I'm going to be doing differently with this fellow from the drawing is I'm not going to put a ruffle around his neck, because I'm afraid that if I do that I'm going to end up with little dips where the water would sit, and if there's water there that freezes, which it would here in South Dakota, then that water is going to expand and pop the sculpture apart. I don't want to do that. If this waterproofing experiment does work, I don't want it to end up just falling apart because I didn't do it right. So I'm going to go ahead and probably put a bandana around his neck instead. And instead of using the belt that was in the drawing, I'm probably going to try to find an old-fashioned rope and just tie that around his waist instead. It'll look like a scarecrow, but it won't necessarily look like this particular scarecrow, but that's okay. Now, like I said, it's going to go ahead and let this guy dry at least 2 or 3 days, maybe longer. It's been really wet outside. The air has a lot of humidity in it, and so it's going to take longer for him to dry. I'll keep the fan on him. I can't put him outside right now because we're having a deluge, so that's not going to work. So it's going to have to be in here. So I'm going to wait until he's completely dry and then take him outside and we'll spray him with that waterproofing material. I just can't wait. So wish me luck. In the meantime, come over and visit me, ultimatepapier-mâché.com. I'd love to see you there.